Ready? All right, good evening, and thank you for joining us. My name is Tom Ballou. I'm the Air Quality Planning Manager at DEQ Central Office, the Air and Renewable Energy Division. I want to welcome you here, both in person and virtually, excuse me, to this community outreach meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to describe the process and schedule the DEQ will use to develop a long-term statewide comprehensive climate action plan, or CCAP. And to get your input and feedback on what should be included in the plan to develop potential pathways to reduce climate pollution. This plan is being developed under a planning grant that was awarded to DEQ by the US EPA under the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program, or CPRG. Since the award of this grant, DEQ team who will introduce themselves soon, has been very busy developing various deliverables as part of the grant. Our accomplishments to date have been development of a short-term priority climate action plan, or PCAP, and applying for 2 mitigation project implementation grants from EPA that have been awarded to us, which will bring about $200 million to the Commonwealth for various mitigation projects. As we move into the CCAP development phase, DEQ is seeking input from a wide range of interested parties, including you all here tonight and on virtually, including the public, major stakeholders, state agencies, and other groups on both the process and content of this plan. To this end, this is the second of our 6 regional office meetings that we're having throughout the rest of February. Thank you again for being here. And we look forward to hearing your thoughts on the process and plan to identify potential ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I will now pass this over to Allison France, who is our first presenter from our CPRG team. Thank you very much.
For being here, my name is Allison France. I'm an air quality planner with DEQ, working on the CPRG team. I'm pretty new to the team. I've actually only been here 5 months or so, but really happy to be speaking with you all tonight and introducing a lot more of what we've been doing and what we hope to do moving forward. So this is our agenda of what we're looking at tonight to cover content-wise. We're going to go over some of our meeting goals, also give you a fun little video to watch to warm us up a little bit. Then we'll go over a review of some of the climate planning efforts that DEQ has already undertaken through the Priority Climate Action Plan. Then we'll move into an overview of the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan, which is what you're all here to listen and talk about tonight. And then we'll move into a collaborative sort of community discussion. So we don't want to talk at you for too long. We really want your input throughout this process. So that's going to be a really valuable part of this discussion, and that'll take up the bulk of our time at the end here. So, for all of our attendees online, we'll just give you a rundown of sort of how to navigate some of these chat features as well tonight so you can interact with us. We won't forget about you, we promise. So you have a few key features that I just want to point out really quick. So the Q&A function is how you're mainly going to be communicating with DEQ tonight. If you have questions, comments, concerns, audio, visual problems, please put them in that chat and we're monitoring that throughout the night, so we'll be able to address your concerns or any comments there as well. The other biggest thing is the next to the unmute. Unfortunately, we don't have the capacity or technical capacity to support audio or for you to speak tonight. But if you are having audio troubles listening to us, there's a little dialogue next to the unmute where you can press and make sure that your audio is coming out of the right speaker. And then throughout the night as well, we have some links that we're going to share with you, links to handouts that we share tonight with our in-person folks. So in that chat is where we'll be sharing those links throughout the night. And if you have any other questions, the Q&A box is always there, and we'll try to address this as we can. All right, and then we have a little bit of a video to get you guys all started here tonight. So hopefully we can start that and then okay, go. It might take us a second. One moment here. I'll stop sharing the screen for 1 moment and open this up here.
Virginia has a clear
All right.
And vested interests in cleaner air for all, reliable and affordable clean energy, and improved resilience from increased storms, floods, and a changing climate. The Virginia Department of Environmental Quality is taking steps to meet these challenges through a climate pollution reduction grant from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. This grant consists of two parts: climate action planning and implementation projects. In March 2024, DEQ released the Virginia Priority Climate Action Plan. This plan identified innovative and high-impact projects to reduce greenhouse gas emissions over 5 years. DEQ based the plan on the 2020 greenhouse gas inventory and input from Virginia communities, stakeholders, and the public. Now, as part of the second part in this process, DEQ will build off the shorter-term plan by developing a comprehensive climate action plan. This is a longer-term statewide plan that will identify and evaluate potential actions to further reduce greenhouse gas emissions over 25 years. This plan will also look at existing goals and requirements for reducing climate pollution. In July 2024, the EPA awarded Virginia almost $200 million worth of funding for projects to reduce methane emissions and enhance Virginia's natural habitats. Now you may ask, how does this impact me? Cleaner air is good for everyone. Reducing extreme climate impacts such as floods and storms also helps us have a better overall quality of life. Now, DEQ wants to hear from you. DEQ wants to understand how your community goals might align with efforts to reduce climate pollution by 2050. There are many sectors to consider when addressing climate pollution. Let's look at each one. Transportation, industry, electric power, buildings, waste and wastewater, agriculture, and forestry and natural lands. So, what are the climate pollution challenges in your community? And how can that information be used to develop solutions to help your community and communities across Virginia? You can share your thoughts on reducing climate pollution in Virginia through the updated DEQ Community Survey. Scan the QR code or visit this link to provide your input today. For more information on the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant and to view any upcoming events, visit deq.virginia.gov/CPRG or email our team at cprg@deq.virginia.gov. Let's work together to protect and improve air quality for the well-being of all Virginians.
Awesome. Awesome. Go back over here for us all.
While we're getting back settled, our DEQ, as you probably know, has lots of needs. We do water, waste, and the land. We have a lot of groups that have helped us out with this process, including our communications office and our environmental justice office. The communications office helped us put this video together, and it's kind of, it's nice to see over the years I've been here that getting more technically adept at presenting things in different ways, but virtually, videos, through social media and other things. It may seem not very exciting but for a state agency to start doing things, it's pretty exciting for us.
Slow but strong process, yeah, to get us technologically advanced. So thank you guys for bearing with us as we navigate that process. But yeah, hopefully that gave you a little bit of an introduction of why we're here tonight and what we are hoping to seek from you all in terms of input on the plan. In terms of our larger meeting goals, though, as we are working to develop this plan, it's in its development phase. We really are hoping to seek local feedback on what climate actions really matter to you and your community, and what you want DEQ to know, and what should be considered for the comprehensive climate action plan. All of this input that we're receiving from the public, we'll talk a little bit about our other input strategies as well. So all of the input that we receive from various stakeholders and communities will be considered holistically when developing the plan. But really we're seeking what really matters to you in terms of climate action and these greenhouse gas emission reduction strategies, which we'll go into a little bit as well. In terms of potential benefits of climate action in your community, different benefits look different in different communities across the Commonwealth. When we talk about climate action, we talk about a couple of different things. We talk about different sectors. So for example, you might look at transportation and think increased mobility, looking at improving bike lanes or increasing the walkability of your community. We can also talk about improving public health and general air quality for local residents. Bigger things, maybe like protecting and restoring natural resources, our coastal zones or our waterways, or increasing green spaces in our communities. There are also ample economic benefits when we talk about climate actions as well. So increasing workforce development opportunities in the clean energy space, or even at the very small personal level, energy efficiency savings for your homes. So those are some examples to sort of get your mind flowing. And these are some of the areas that we're really trying to hit and hear more about from you all tonight as well. And with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to our greenhouse gas inventory specialist, Eva.
Hello, everyone. I first off just want to thank you all for taking another evening to join us. It's much appreciated. I'm going to give a quick overview of our priority climate action plan process, which is the process that wrapped up and was the predecessor to the comprehensive climate action plan. So during the CCAP process, we engaged in very similar outreach as we're engaging now: in-person public meetings, we had online public meetings, we had webinars, and we had a survey for the CCAP too. We received 322 responses from 171 zip codes, which reflected a diverse range of perspectives. From the valuable feedback that we received, several key priorities that Virginians expressed were a need for more renewable energy sources in their communities, more green spaces to enhance local environments, and improved public transit options for easier mobility. The respondents highlighted crucial benefits from these actions, including better air quality, improved transportation, and enhanced community resilience. However, despite their enthusiasm for these changes, the respondents noted significant barriers that prevent them from taking personal actions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, including the high cost of energy efficient alternatives and limited access to transit alternatives. But despite these challenges, respondents felt the greatest opportunities for overcoming barriers lie in government incentives and policies and community engagement. In the PCAP, we developed 10 priority measures aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions. I'll give just a couple examples by sector. So for transportation, electrifying vehicles. For buildings, the measure could be to improve energy efficiency in buildings. For industry, using more low carbon materials in manufacturing. In the electric power sector, an example could be using more clean and reliable power sources. For natural and working lands, protecting forests, agricultural lands, and wetlands. And lastly, for waste and wastewater, capturing methane from landfills. Now I will be discussing Virginia's greenhouse gas inventory. These inventories are crucial for any air quality plan because they provide a baseline understanding of our current emissions. Virginia's greenhouse gas emissions are developed using EPA's state inventory tool and encompasses all economic sectors and greenhouse gases, including carbon dioxide, methane, fluorinated gases, and nitrous oxide. Although, for the sake of simplicity here, they're all measured in million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. In 2021, which is the most recent inventory we have right now, just due to the slow updates of inventory fuels. Virginia emitted approximately 146 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. Our findings showed that transportation is obviously the largest sector of greenhouse gas emissions in Virginia, and over half of that is actually due to emissions from personal vehicles, passenger vehicles, and electric power ranks second, which reflects the emissions from electricity generation at power plants, and industry is in third place, which makes sense because of Virginia's industry-heavy landscape. An important consideration is the role of carbon sinks, though. As you can see, the gross total, so all emissions, in Virginia in 2021 was 146 million metric tons of CO2 equivalent. However, when you factor in all of the natural land that we have in our Commonwealth, that actually ends up subtracting about 36% of the gross emissions and makes our net total 93 million metric tons. And the next graph, so this is a preliminary graph that we created. This is not our final projection graph. We will be creating a Virginia specific projection and including that in our comprehensive climate action plan. So this shows Virginia's greenhouse gas emission trends from 2005 through 2021. Since 2005, gross greenhouse gas emissions, so not including the sinks, have decreased 19%, and including the sinks, net emissions have decreased 26% from 2005 to 2021 for the battery plants. The largest decrease in greenhouse gas emissions in that time period is mostly due to fuel switching. And in the electric power sector, and all the sectors actually have seen decreases, with the exception of forestry and land use emissions.
Fuel switching?
Yes, that is that's the greatest cause of the reduction in electric power emissions. From the transition from coal.
Yeah, go from coal to natural
Yes,
gas.
natural gas.
Sources.
These projections, again, are just preliminary. And this shows projections if under a status quo scenario or a business as usual scenario. So that's assuming population growth continues along the pathway it's going now, policies and regulations are the same, and emission trends were to continue as they are now. So as a part of the CCAP deliverable, these new projections will be more Virginia specific and will factor in our new load growth projections and other Virginia specific estimates. Does anyone have any questions on, yes?
What's the difference between electric power and commercial energy or renewable energy?
Yes, so it actually comes down to, this could go to the last. It actually comes down to how you do the inventory. In my official greenhouse gas inventories, in our official greenhouse gas inventories, actually, we do not include the electric power sector as its own sector. Instead, it's divided by end use, so divided into the industrial and commercial and residential energy sectors, and then the electric power at the and then any transmission losses added to the energy production activities. So it's just the way that you look at it, whether you look at it at the point of generation or by end use.
So saying this pie chart and the bar chart are not same data?
They are the same data for 2021. So just for that,
Yeah.
yes, so just for the 1 year that we are at currently.
So electric power is the transmission one? The orange bar.
Electricity generation at power
That's
plants.
within Virginia.
Okay. And then, so residential energy, is that the usage at the house?
Yes.
Yes.
Again, we could have shown it another way that Abe just described by just not having that power sector slice of the pie and distributing the use of that electricity to those other three sectors, industry, commercial, and industrial. It's just a matter, more often than not, we get lots of questions of what the power sector emissions look like. And what are the trends in them? So that's why we tend to show it in that way. It's just a matter of how you slice the pie or how you categorize what bin those emissions go into.
But another way of looking at it, because those sectors still do exist in this graph, right? Commercial, residential, and industrial buildings. Those are actually you could assume that most of those emissions that remain in those sectors, are from imported electricity from other states.
Okay.
So in conclusion, the insights gleaned from the PCAP and emission values in the greenhouse gas inventory and in our projections will help us pave our way through a more sustainable future for Virginia. Thank you for your attention, and I'll now pass it off for Julia. Yes.
How does RG affect those reductions of joining one meeting?
Yes.
Since we were only in Reggie 3 years, it was really hard to tell what the impact of our being there was, or what it would have been going forward. The main thing I would point out is that notwithstanding being in or out of Reggie, we have another controlling state statute, the Virginia Clean Economy Act, which is will continue to drive reductions in the power sector. So, it may not be the same path if we were still in Reggie, but the year by year reduction may be different, but, the end goal between either Reggie and or VCEA is kind of the same.
And we will be showing different policy scenarios in the CCAP. Okay, any last questions before I pass it off to Julia to talk a little bit more about our CCAP process? Okay, well, thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. Just want to thank you for sharing your time with us, whether you're a virtual participant or you're physically here. We look forward to just speaking with you more about where we are currently. Thank you, Ava and Allison, for a comprehensive overview of why we're here today. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. We're here to discuss the comprehensive climate action plan. So Ava discussed a lot of the measures and different sectors that were discussed within the primary climate action plan, which looks at a shorter term, 5-year span. And now we're moving towards looking at a longer term Virginia specific roadmap to how we can reduce our emissions over a 25-year period as opposed to a 5-year period. And so the comprehensive climate action plan will build on the work that was done in the priority climate action plan. And it will do this by having some key deliverables. And we just wanted to go over a few of those with you. So Ava went ahead and introduced our greenhouse gas emissions inventory. So we are using that to basically build out future projections, which is a business as usual scenario. And we're in the process of building a Virginia specific business as usual. So the final version of that will be included in the comprehensive climate action plan. That will be accompanied by reduction targets. And those reduction targets are going to be supported by the use of potential emission reduction strategies. So really, this is the bulk of the plan, is figuring out what strategies Virginia can look at, whether it's through state partnerships, community partnerships, of how we can reduce our emissions as a state. So it will also leverage certain funding opportunities and highlight those, and basically just describe how this can realistically be accomplished. And it will also be accompanied by several analyses, one of which looks at air quality and co-pollutant reduction benefits. One that looks at how this will impact the workforce in the state of Virginia and identify potential barriers, opportunities, and partnerships that can facilitate Virginia's decarbonized future. And we will also be looking at larger community impacts across the state. So we want this to be a representative plan, as does EPA and all of the recipients of planning grants. And in order for us to do that successfully, we really want to make sure that we're capturing the ideas of various community members and stakeholders. So that will be accomplished through reaching out to the general public, which is why we're here today. We're in the process of hosting our community listening sessions and offering participants across the state the potential to engage with us in person and virtually and share their input on what potential emission reduction strategies should be included in the final plan. We also are organizing a formalized stakeholder group. And basically that stakeholder group is composed of representatives of various state organizations as well as community-based organizations, across the state. And we will also be holding an interagency work group. So that's going to bring together various state agencies, that could be involved in kind of creating a collaborative approach, across state agencies looking to implement a particular strategy. We will also be working with localities, regional groups, and tribes. So there are also a variety of regional groups that received planning grants within the state. So we have one for the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission, one within Richmond, which is a partnership with Plan RDA. We also have the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments in Northern Virginia, and the Monacan Indian Nation also received a planning grant. There are also 6 additional state and federal recognized tribes that we will be reaching out to throughout the CCAP process, and EPA as well as DEQ has an emphasis on including low-income and disadvantaged communities, which is a term that is used heavily by the Environmental Protection Agency to see where across the state geographically there are communities that are experiencing some of the disbenefits of climate pollution and how we can amplify their voices in this plan as well. So just going through the engagement process and to give you a little bit more background on our timeline, we began this process in October by having a CCAP planning kickoff webinar and just making the public aware of this climate engagement work that we're going to be doing. And in November and December, we began our formalized stakeholder group process. And if you go to the next slide. Right now we're in the spring. So this is where we are now. We're continuing our stakeholder group engagement through March. And this is when we're starting to have our community listening sessions for our general public outreach. We will also be doing the regional group engagement with the other recipients of the regional planning grants, and then have that interagency engaging work group. And then we will also be doing some LIDAC specific engagement in areas of the state that often aren't necessarily reached in terms of our state engagement, and then also engagement with the tribes. So looking ahead of the spring, we are planning right now on kind of wrapping up our community engagement, the first phase of it, in the April to May timeframe, so that gives us several months to start drafting a plan. And then once we do have our first draft of the plan, during the fall, we're going to host an informal public comment period and just share what we've come up with so far, to hear input on what people would like to see differently, what they like in the plan, what they want to see the same. So that way we can basically use all of that feedback to create a final plan that will be submitted to the Environmental Protection Agency in December. And if anyone has any questions about that engagement timeline, or just more generally about the comprehensive climate action plan, what's included, who's involved, you can just let me know.
Who's involved?
So we have, if you go back a couple slides. Yes. So this is basically just a vague, brief overview of everyone that's involved in the plan. So for our general public outreach, DEQ has 6 regional offices. So we work at the central office in Richmond, but they're basically regional offices across the state. So right now we're at Tidewater, but our first community listening session we did was held in the Piedmont region. We're also going to be traveling to our Valley Regional Office, our Blue Ridge Regional Office, our Southwest Regional Office, to also host community listening sessions at those venues. So we look forward to engaging people in person and online. We're also doing some general public outreach through statewide webinars. And we're holding our formalized stakeholder group. The process of hosting those meetings began in November, and it will be finished in March. We also have online a list of every single organization and their respective appointed member to represent their organization on our website. We also have a frequently asked question page that kind of briefly overviews the stakeholder engagement process if you're interested in that. And if you'd like a copy of that list, I'd be happy to email it to you as well. In terms of our state agency interagency working group, we haven't formally started that process yet, but it will involve other interested, invested state agencies such as like the Department of Wildlife Resources, the Department of Forestry, and just like other various state agencies that are interested in reducing climate pollution and would like to be involved in what the final version of the plan will look like. And then in terms of localities, regional groups and tribes, we're working with MSAs and like metropolitan statistical areas and like other planning districts that received planning grants to basically figure out what on the ground outreach they're doing to not only leverage that within our own plan and get a better understanding of the like boots on the ground work that they're doing, but how we can help them, like if they need any resources from us at the statewide level, we're kind of having that back and forth with them. And tribal engagement has yet to begin, so I can't necessarily give you like a concrete indication of tribal nations that would be interested in working with DEQ on this plan yet. But we are going to reach out to all state and federally recognized tribes to try to include their input on this plan. And then in terms of low income and disadvantaged community engagement, we have yet to begin that process as well. We actually have some of our contractors here with us today that are helping us with our LIDAC engagement plan. And once we have more details on that, we always make sure to post pertinent information on our website, but we also have a newsletter where we announce all of these engagement opportunities as they occur. So we send that out about once a month, and we also have a link on our CPRG webpage to sign up for our updates.
We all have a listing of what each locality is doing in reference to this in the DEAC on their website, right?
Yes, so we are working with regional organizations that received planning grants, but they work closer with the localities than we do. So basically those planning district commissions that receive planning grants are doing more community engagement boots on the ground within localities as opposed to at the state level. But we're aware through working with them what information they're receiving within individual localities. And we also have a community survey where we give the option for people to leave us more information on, you know, where they're from, for us to be able to look spatially at where we're getting our input from and see if there are any gaps in the spatial distribution of who's providing input on the plan.
Especially within my locality where I'm at, what grants are being given and what that is being done in my locality.
Okay, yeah. And we'd be happy to have a more in-depth conversation about that if you'd like. While I'm not entirely sure how like each locality would be involved in their regional work or within the state work, we can have like a deeper conversation if you'd like any more resources pertaining to your locality or to your region. We have pretty close working relationships with the planning district commissions that did receive grants too, so we can work closer with them to get you some more information. Yeah, no problem.
And to just add to that, the specific agency that's doing our organizations doing the regional planning down here is the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission. And Whitney Ketchmark is kind of the lead on that planning process. And they also have information on their website about their CPRG efforts and plans and meetings and so on. I think just adding to, Julie did a great job of describing how all that fits together and who we're talking about, but we're really trying to get everyone to participate in this plan and provide their input to us. If you have specific community interests, concerns, you can reach out to any of us to provide them to us, and then we can certainly work all of that into the community outreach plan that we're putting together now. So, but just reach out to any of us. We're available. One of the things we have talked about, and again, we'll see how much we can do, but we would be available anytime to, if we come up with it, to meet with any community that wants to talk about it.
We also do have a CPRG email that's listed on our webpage, so all of us monitor that throughout the week. So we should be able to get back to you with a prompt response.
And I don't know if we specifically said, but we do have again, an updated version of the public survey that's out there. I think you find that in there already.
Yes, and we also have a QR code later in the presentation if anyone would prefer that as opposed to a link. But we will also be dropping the link within the webinar for any virtual attendee who would like access to that as well.
This is an EPA grant, and maybe the final report is to the EPA. But do you have any process in place to also, how this can be presented also to the state of Virginia, i.e. the governor and general assembly, so the state can take action in this?
The plan is the schedule already described. We will be putting together a draft plan. That draft plan, just like we had to do with PCAP during the PCAP process, would have to go through under review by the administration. And they obviously will have the ability to make changes to it or to add whatever they want to add to it as well. So the plan will mostly be I think I best describe it as Julia, or one of the other folks said, a roadmap. How can we get to, reducing carbon, or what pathways can we use to get to reducing carbon pollution? Considering our current tools that we have available, like the BCA that I just mentioned, and additional tools that we might be able to recommend that be done to again, further reduce carbon emission. But I mean, you're right. So it's not only EPA that will have the plan, but it's also the administration going to have to do it. And it's very tricky timing we have right now because we're going to be submitting it at the end, in the beginning of December. We'll see how all that works out. Without any more commentary.
Any other questions?
For all of our in-person attendees, Kwan, who is one of the outreach staff at Hampton Roads Planning District Commission, he's online and he said, if you have any questions for the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission, please feel free to reach out to himself or Whitney Ketchmark, and that they also have a survey out. We can send that information out, but also you can come up to me after the meeting and I can give you that contact information.
All right, we'll move forward. I'm going to pass it off to Allison. Thank you. Here again, thank you for all your questions and thank you to my colleagues for presenting that information. So we're going to keep rolling with some of these discussions that we have. But ultimately, we're seeking input from you tonight about what we want to see out of this comprehensive climate action plan, your specific community concerns or opportunities, benefits, challenges, etc. So we're going to guide you through a few discussion questions, and we really want this to be a very open and collaborative process and feedback process. So very free-form discussion as we move forward. Within your handouts as well, these questions are listed out. So if you need to take some time to jot some ideas down and reflect on these questions before we move into a full-fledged discussion, please do so. These are for you to just reference and brainstorm. If you want us to collect your written feedback at the end, we'll be happy to do so and receive that written input. Otherwise, that's just for you. But we're going to move forward with our first question at least. So we're going to go through all of these 3 questions for about 20 or so minutes, sort of just get our brains flowing. And then we'll move in. We have a 4th question as well that's a little bit more interactive for us all tonight because we have a really large audience. I think right now we'll probably just stick to a general group discussion, but we want to have maybe side conversations with your friends and your colleagues sitting next to you. That's perfectly fine as well. So for the first question here, we're specifically looking at which sectors are most important to you when we talk about reducing greenhouse gas emissions. For example, you might be looking at agriculture. Maybe you have a really close connection to agriculture. Maybe you live in an agricultural community, something like that. Maybe transportation is big for you. You're really passionate about biking to work every day and you want to make your commute safer. So something like that to get your brain flowing. The second question is, what specific actions are you already taking perhaps to reduce greenhouse gas emissions or might already be happening in your community? So maybe you do have bike lanes, or maybe you have a local composting facility that you benefit from and use. So those are some ideas for you. We also have in those handouts and also online, the link to the handouts, the sectors with different ideas of some different actions that are already being taken in those sectors. But we, as we talk through these things, can get more ideas from you and can provide more ideas as well. And then for number 3, we're looking at what barriers are preventing you or maybe your community from engaging in more climate actions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So it could be things like cost of can't put solar panels on your roof. Maybe you rent and you can't do that, or maybe they're too expensive, something like that. So living large scale. Maybe it's just a time and inefficiency option. Maybe you live in a community where biking and you don't really have a lot of public transit options. Those aren't really available to you, so you have to drive every single day. So those are ideas just to get your brain flowing, but we really want to hear from you. So if any of these questions are relevant to you or stick out, please let us know. We can go in any order that you please. And for everybody online, we're going to continue to monitor these comments as well and record all of them.
So I think one thing that's put into my mind is City of Norfolk did a really comprehensive climate plan history. But I do think there was a challenge. There's a challenge with implementing it. And so when we're going through this process, when we're suggesting things, how do you kind of have certainty that it will not just in itself, but then, how to, I think that is something for me. It's kind of sticky with me and like, before moving forward, I've done this before. How do we see the results?
Yeah.
How do we have more certainty or confidence that as well as our actually like action versus just a.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I'm involved in a lot of planning activities in the city of Chesapeake, and we like lots of plans. There's been a development activity plan. We have a full bicycle program, and we really need an urban forest management plan to plant more trees. But a big challenge is, besides just even the time and money aspect, is people don't like change. What do you mean I have to give up a car lane in order to put a bicycle lane in there? That'll make the world and make that happen. And so just the like emotional reaction to any sort of change. Oh, we're going to put more solar farms out on the agricultural area. We're going to lose farmland. We're going to starve to death because we need the farmland. I mean, a lot of these are emotional reactions that aren't even, I mean, when you go down to the facts, when you do the statistics, you can do all sorts of analysis showing them, we'll be just fine. And it's going to make life better in the long run. But the emotional reaction is something very hard to overcome.
Yeah, that's right.
Not have to bring it down there, but they part of the emotional part of it is also when, the meetings, we have the public meeting, and the way that it is presented to residents about what is going on in the area. We talk about that this is a study or this is a survey. But in actuality, it's actually a plan in the contract and it's actually being done. When it comes down to, agricultural and putting the solar panels up and taking away agriculture, well, this area is, farmland and everything. And so this is, the livelihood of people. And so, yes, you want to implement some new things, but then you're taking away what is the livelihood of the residents that live in this particular area. And when you look at all the open land that has not been touched, but you're touching that which people actually live on, and most people have been, a generation of passed down on their land. So when you have these expansions, a lot of times the city use eminent domain to take from the residents. And that makes it an emotional thing because you're taking something from them and you're not giving them the full value of what it is. And, when, I look at transportation and electrical cars and everything, everybody don't want electrical cars, so we don't want to go into being a dictatorship. We have to have something that we don't want, because, personally for me, if I'm traveling, I'm not trying to find a location to be able to plug in and then sit there and wait. I want to put gas in my vehicle and just keep traveling to get to the destination of where I'm going. So some of the implementation that is coming forth, not that it's not, a good thing, it's just the way that it's being brought forward. And then, again, some people do want change and some people don't. But then when we look at all the expansion on the interstate that's going on with transportation, well, it was brought to residents when we, voted to expand the interstate and everything. It was supposed to be able to help with all the traffic, not that we want to be paying tolls for it. And then some of the way that the interstate has been expanded, and you take these little toll roads, you're traveling further just to get around certain places. So it's like, then whoever came up with this map of expanding the interstate, were they really thinking? Because now the trip is even longer. And then when it comes down to working within the 757 areas of all the different cities, what is costing the residents to pay in the tolls? But then when we go to speak or talk to somebody about our bill, it is a third party. We're not actually being able to talk to a person. We're getting charged a fee right away if our money amount have expired while we're traveling. As soon as it expires, you all charge a $25 fee on us, but yet we haven't even had time enough to put money on it. So again, who's really bearing the cost of everything? The residents that live here, and we want change, but we don't want to have to pay for everything because you're charging us taxes and all that stuff. So it's a lot of things with the emotion, but then you understand why you keep taking for our family. And if you work in one city and you have to go through the tolls, you paying twice, going and coming, and then at different times of the day, the price change. Okay, so again, for residents, that's too much, too fast, and we didn't vote for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. So, maybe summarizing so far, some current concerns and both opportunities and challenges related to development and expansion, actionable items, all of those things. We're recording all of that. Yeah, thank you very much for everybody sharing.
There was a lot of packed into on that discussion. Starting off with the first point, I would say, you're not alone being challenged by the plan versus action situation. We too have the same situation. And, we can recommend things in this plan without having the first authority to do it, and then funding, whatever funding we needed to do it. It is still just going to be a plan. What we envision as part of this is it being again, I hate to keep using the roadmap authority, but it's something saying here are some potential strategies, pathways that we can get to further carbon reductions. And here are the benefits and the costs of doing those things. And so that the decision makers can take that and decide, is this something we want to do, or pick and choose probably what types of measures they might actually want to move forward with and implement.
One thing I hope the plan incorporates is when you talk about cost, not just the cost of implementing this, but also the cost of doing nothing. Which, for example, the impact on insurance costs.
Yeah, so we'll look at, one thing that is going to be in this is a cost benefits analysis or something of that sort, but looking at it across sectors too, and seeing, what action or non-action looks like across sectors. And that's going to be part of that business as usual scenario that we were talking about earlier. But also part of, hopefully we'll, have a little bit like a breakdown of each sector within the inventory and explaining some of those things in more detail as well.
one thing, just add a couple, even though, and we're talking about putting a plan together here, there are already things going on, not necessarily in a orchestrated manner, but there are things going on already that are going to start reducing climate pollution. We already mentioned the EPA grants that we got that are going to be dealing with two things, reducing methane, which is a highly potent GHG emission, GHG pollutant, which is gonna get us, is at least on paper, will get us some significant reductions in methane from coal mines, landfills, and through food waste diversion. In addition to that, and it's actually very germane to this area, we got a grant to preserve and enhance wetlands and shorelands, and so that we can keep and enhance their ability to capture carbon and store carbon. So both of those projects are going to be on the ground here in the next 5 years to start reducing significantly. I think both those projects have a lifetime reduction of carbon in the 30 to 40 million metric ton range.
Where is this?
There was the actually in the Hampton Roads area. I don't know the specifics, but we can provide that to you.
Yeah, if you're interested. Yeah, and we actually we're having our GIS specialist work on an interactive ArcGIS map of all the locations that the projects will be, because they're mostly the natural lands ones are in coastal forests and habitats on the eastern shore and Chesapeake and that's the Hampton Roads area.
I mean, on that one, like lifetime, even if those are gonna be at this sea level rise.
Hopefully not.
I mean, it's a lot of them are building breakwaters, so hopefully nothing, especially.
That will account for, for being resilient. Okay.
But yes, yeah, we really are trying like for all the measures that will include the plan, doing a full co-benefits analysis, like considering other factors, like how does it impact like the actual members of the public, are the citizens that, we're doing this whole plan for, and how would sea level rise impact it? How would data centers impact it? There's a lot of different things that are vision that we will try our best to do. The best analysis we can.
Just want to take a minute, is there anything online as well?
Yes, there's one comment, I'm just echoing concerns about transportation. Amanda online said, transportation is really important for Hampton. There is a lack of bus stations near the shipyard, and that makes it really difficult for service members to use public transit to work, and it causes a lot of traffic.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
I would like to echo on the transportation. I've lived in Virginia Beach for like about 2 years now, and within my first year, I witnessed like an horrific bike accident. And I kind of like, it's a little traumatizing just to watch, because there was that nice guy riding a bike and get hit in the intersection. And I realized like the bike lanes are just the way the streets are made on Virginia Beach Boulevard. This is very like bikeable or walkable, especially at night. It's very dangerous. So I'm hoping that in this time we can do something to implement some type of bike lane transportation, or like improve the rail system to go from Norfolk all the way to Oceanside, and you can get off the street. But it's not very safe, I think, to walk or bike on these streets, not very walkable. And that's something that's pretty important to me as well. And as far as like in the commercial sector, I think with the rise of AI and crypto mining, I think that uses a lot of power. So I'm hoping that we can put some reductions like on people's use of that power, and maybe switch to like more solar, or like renewable energy, or something that's not going to be pollutants, or something that we all care about, and we only have on Earth. So I'm hoping that we can make some strides in the commercial sector, because I think that's pretty important. And as you know, AI is like really gaining traction, so that's a lot of power.
That is one of the major challenges that we have with putting this plan together. When we went back to talking about this Virginia specific business as usual scenario, we have to account for that. There's power projections mainly driven by data centers, either AI or otherwise. And you probably already know, I'm not telling you, that Virginia is probably number one in terms of data centers, both current on the ground and projected to be built in the future. So we have to match that increased demand with things like mandates to go to renewable and clean energy. And that's not gonna be even best. So that will certainly be something we're gonna have to address as best we can in the plan. And we have luckily had some very good power sector consultants that are working for us that will help us model and analyze our way through that process.
Just as a follow-up, Amanda said, that trainings would be great. If we could extend that to the peninsula, then people would be able to use public transit to cross the water and avoid horrible traffic. We also have a question from Kwan. He's asking, what region of the state are we seeing the most opportunity for GHG reduction? Good question.
That might be something that we wanna, sort of identify within the development of this plan. Off the top of my head, I don't think we have identified a specific region yet. That's what we're sort of hoping to do with all of these regional offices visits, is to identify both those challenges and major opportunities. So when we talk about something like data centers, that's really pertinent pretty much everywhere in Virginia. We know when we go up to Northern Virginia, that's where it's really expanding. So we're gonna get a lot of discussion about that. Transportation is one that we see that being surrounded a lot across the entire Commonwealth. So using this input, that's what we're gonna hope to continue to, I guess, identify.
And as far as opportunities, they're not as much regionally driven as they are sector driven. You're really going after, renewable energy and energy efficiency in the power sector space. You go looking at electrification and a lot of the other sites try to take the picture. And that would, depending on what strategy you put together, that would affect that sector in all throughout the state, not just in one particular region.
I think on that side, and I think you made this point as well, that what we see is a wonderful move forward because of this growth in solar and the interest in solar developers on going the greenfields and the prime ag land and forest land, we've seen a lot of natural resource or regional to rural area negative impacts. So we mentioned modeling too, with this plan, because it is so short term, look at modeling some distributed solar to understand how urban areas with already so much infrastructure built in could have some of that solar, share some of that solar load. Look at agrivoltaics, so agriculture and solar working together. We're moving so fast with solar, which we need to, but it's not in a way that's not having very significant consequences. So I don't know if it's just solar funding, but there needs to be a lot of work to do that we're doing it the right way and can do it the right way. Especially again with this, the data center energy pool, we really have to do a lot of work in a very quick time frame. So I would prioritize that because the impacts are real.
Understood. Yeah.
And then they're doing business as usual projections. Is there any way for you to also predict the data center usage? Like a medium high curve.
That is the main thing we're doing right now. We get our projections from various sources, mainly PJM, if you're familiar with that. That's a distribution, electrical distribution group within Virginia and most of the Mid-Atlantic. They do projections every year, and we're using their most recent projections, which are showing even within the last 4 years, the curves have dramatically changed. So that is something we're gonna be factoring into that business as usual analysis, which again makes our job a little harder, unfortunately. But then we're also gonna layer in things that will reduce that new Virginia specific business as usual further down because of things like DCA, some of the federal programs, IRA, IRA, all of those have programs that are designed to reduce waste emissions. So we just don't know where we're gonna land yet. So we'll see how that goes. The one other thing I would add to that is In terms of, the additional solar development, DEQ, a lot of moving parts going on here. DEQ in a separate effort has actually promulgated, soon will be promulgating regulations under, the further development of solar, utility scale solar on land use. And is really gonna be designed to, hopefully move away from the greenfields approach of solar development. So that actually should be coming out soon.
What being said, with the solar, you're affecting the farmland, okay, and then some of the solar that you're putting up is also affecting some people medically. And then when we looked at the electrical, like meaning power, and different things are changing and you're, monitoring things different ways. One, our, utility bill, the way that you monitor the usage has changed, but it hasn't not actually been explained, to the resident on the change. Also, currently, speaking for myself, I live in Hughesville, which has two localities, Chesapeake and Suffolk, and I'm on the Chesapeake side, but I'm being charged some taxes from the Suffolk side, and I've been trying to figure that out. But then even on the utility bills, all these different types of fees that are being added in, again, the bulk of what is being changed within the business aspect of being able to provide these utilities and all to residents, we are bearing the cost of it and not being explained what these costs are and why. And then it's like it's mandatory and it has been already pre-approved. And, you know, those, the B that made that approval, but there wasn't an open public meeting explaining to us why we got to pay these fees and why these changes came about. And so again, that goes back to residents wanting to be explained what's going on and why you're changing how you monitor or what you use to measure the usage. And some residents, and I'm still speak for myself because I'm getting me first, Dominion came and put in a new meter, electrical meter to read on my home without my knowledge or my permission. However, again, the bill has been changed, the way the usage has been changed. And so when we look at our bills to understand the uses and the fees, we're not understanding and we're not getting a clear explanation of why and how these changes are coming about. And we're carrying the vote.
I can speak on what you just talked about the meeting and different things that I'm looking at here. When they came out where I live, like she said, they don't tell you they're making changes and why they're making changes. I happened to be leaving home that day and someone had 2 meetings because I have a duplex. So I'm double, utility. And, I asked him, I said, what do you here for? I'm the homeowner. And he told me, I said, well, do not touch it unless I give you permission. Other people not home, they just to do it. But up to now, I still have my old ones, even though they say it's supposed to save you money. I don't care because of the fact I want to know why you making these changes when you haven't done what I told you. When they gave out the infrastructure money, for doing different things, I pretty much put it on my website, what the money amount is and everything, because I'm a flood victim from 2016 and I'm still one. And no one done thing or no one have done. But I'm looking at the gas company,
almost blew me up 2015, sending some contract out to do stuff. And I said, I refuse to let you have video and take pictures. You come in my area, my neighborhood, I'm taking pictures in our city. I'm out of Portsmouth. I take pictures of what's going on, everything. If you come in, you digging, I'm digging into the pictures. Because I want to see the change come, but not, nickel and diamond or, you know, in the change. Because the earth around those pipes are bursting. So if they bursting, that's because something is happening, weather related, and proper, equipment under the ground that average person don't take time to look into these things like I do. And I say old pipes and stuff, I won't change, I won't update, but I want to see that you actually doing it. You're getting grant money. I'm here for another purpose, not to get money, but to see how the money is being used. I deal with DEQ, EPA, CDC, anybody, you know, and I want to know everything about what's going on. These things about the electric power, I told them, they better not do anything until they come and take that, what you call it, the thing on the telegram pole, transformer. A lot of people don't understand, when a transformer is at a certain age, it starts doing damage in your home. When it happened to me, I let everybody know. My receptacle stove and everything stopped working. And then I get them there, they go off the pole and temporarily. But they have the funds to replace it. Replacing it in different neighborhoods, but in my neighborhood, it's not being replaced. So I'm pretty much, you know, looking at how people get this money. And I'm gonna write everybody that to come out, every company. I don't care who you are, if you getting funds, I'm gonna write you up if I don't see you doing what you say you're supposed to do. I have been told by DEQ that what y'all do and what you can't do. Well, I want to know, just like contaminated water and stuff in our neighborhood, we get some letter. One time they said there, don't affect no one but the children. And the baby's already been through death. That was a lie. We just got a letter to, this year saying it's no special aid that lives. A lot of people learn a lot of stuff from me. All they have to do is just take me, serious, and I show them videos and stuff. I've had many people die because of the thing with the power that you see in the neighborhoods. That getting people cancer in their neighborhood. You see what I'm saying? Then there's a lot of other stuff. Well, I ain't gonna hold you up, but there's a lot of stuff going on. Getting people health issues in the shipyard, all kinds of stuff. And I know because I've been part of some things that I can't talk about. But I will talk about certain things that I can talk about. I just wanted to say, my name is Sheila. If you want to talk to me, I want to hear from you all. What you gonna do, you know, for DEQ? A lot of meetings we have, we don't know nothing about it unless we go from place to place. And that's it. I don't know what's going on.
No, that's a really, at least at the very, thank you for sharing all of that. First of all, we really appreciate all of that input. That thing that you put, that point that you made at the very, very end about knowing what's going on, is something that we always really are working to improve, is how we can disseminate information to communities. So feedback on that, how we can even just best reach you about what we are doing or what we want to know or what you want us to know, all of that, those pathways for communication. We're always interested and open to.
I don't mind sharing my information, but I want to see some solution.
Yeah.
I've been sharing it from the time I got started with these different agencies. And each one of them, I know what they explain, what they can and cannot do. Yeah. But the thing is, when they get grants and funds, I tell them, I don't even care about trying to get it myself, because number one, I'm so busy doing things in the community to prove my case of what's going on. How many people are dying? A lot of people dying, and a lot of people getting different ailments. I don't know if y'all know, we got the highest rate of cancer in this area. You know, we got diabetes. I ain't gonna go into all of this, but a lot of people environment in this area and throughout the United States, they wouldn't be getting that money if they want to change. Okay. Remember that $1 trillion they said rebuild America? Well, I have all that, how much is supposed to be spent, because I complained to those people, and they wrote back and told me, and I put it on my website for everybody to know. So, number one, please, let me know if y'all can do something to look into the contamination, our water. We get a letter and saying, oh, there's no specific aid, but you tell us when we did the lawsuit back in Washington, it was just children and certain age. Now, this year, somebody coming up telling the truth saying, there's no specific aid that you being contaminated. Okay.
Thank you for sharing. Well, if you want to speak later as well, and we might not have or be the exact contact for every specific topic that you discussed, but we'll certainly do our best to either navigate or find those contacts for you or continue to have those discussions and answer as many as we can.
And now, who really, I know who give out the money,
Yeah,
but who's monitoring to make sure it's being implemented in those cities that the president is talking about.
right.
Well, another part of that challenge, is you probably know already, is that there's so much money coming from so many different
I know,
directions.
I know,
It's hard to keep track of it all.
I know.
And who's responsible for it, and who's tracking it, and who's,
A lot of people that ain't
this-
going up, that
this-
is tracking it.
yeah, this grant that we have here, we're operating under, was part of the Inflation Reduction Act. But it was only, it was, amount was $5 billion. And that was like 1% of its whole IRA, incentives and grants and other things. So there's a lot of programs out there, just trying to keep them all straight. Even we have a hard time with it.
I'm overwhelmed with a lot of information, and I already know. You know, in figures. I'm not gonna hold you, I sent my questions in to Tom, I don't know if Tom is here, but, hi, Tom.
Hi.
Charlotte White from Hughesville, and I'm also a Suffolk side. You've heard from Chesapeake, you've heard from Portsmouth, and now I'm from Suffolk.
Wonderful.
And the only thing I can say to you all here and to Tom, Suffolk has put the heart in front of the horses. So everything that we're seeing that's happening with the money, the infrastructure, the American Rescue Plan Act money, all the money that's pouring in, they're just sitting on it. And they're jumping and getting the developers to do all the work. Now, that listing that I gave Tom, you can go over some of the things, and in La Brea, and La Brea here. Marianne,
I
yeah.
believe she works at a different office.
Okay, well, I've spoken with her, I've emailed her with some of the things that are going on in our neighborhood. I don't know who young people in here. Back in the day, there was a movie theater in Portsmouth on Effingham Street. Okay. And that was predominantly for blacks. Well, I'm thinking 2015, it was torn down. They brought the material to Pughesville because it had asbestos probably in it, and they buried it in Pughesville. And I talked to the treasurer and I told him, I said, well, now, you know, if anybody come on that land and start digging, they're gonna find that asbestos, right? He said, well, Miss White, if they come and we sell the land, we'll clean it up for them, and we'll just charge them $50,000 more dollars. I said, okay. So what happened, they auctioned off the land. So the auction buyers didn't know about it. And so then they came and started cutting down trees, and that's another thing, we're looking here, we're talking about preserving things and keeping our resources. Every time we turn around, they're cutting down a tree in our neighborhood. And we don't have stormwater. We've never had stormwater. And the fields have been established since 1894. So in 2006, when the VDOT turned over the streets to all the cities, they told all the cities to put stormwater and maintain the streets. We own streets because we're going interstate now. Well, they got the funding, they got the money, they got the equipment. They even got extra men. VDOT gave them extra manpower. And do you think Suffolk did anything in the black community? Right today, we don't have stormwater. And like I said, asbestos, and they're digging up now. So we're saying, okay, we want to be a part of this group. We want to have the transportation. We want to do the emissions. We want to have our agricultural and still have good things in the neighborhood. But the city seemed to be fighting us. Now, y'all know we're supposed to have a bike trail come from Suffolk all the way to Virginia Beach, right? Well, when they got when they got to the Chesapeake side of Hughesville, they stopped the train. So people have to ride the bikes in the street over to the other side of Chesapeake, jump on the trail again, and then go on. So we asked them, we said, well, what about this pull to the Chesapeake? So the trail we go straight to Virginia Beach? Oh, we're gonna do that next year. It's only next year. So
I'm gonna ask those estimates, but we've been complaining about next year for a long time, because
that's what I'm saying. Do you come out and ride your bike?
I know exactly what you're talking about, and yeah.
On my behalf, when you go back to Chesapeake, talk to Rick. Because I'm saying, I didn't understand yet. They want us to do these things. We are ready to do them. Because I even bought a 3-wheeler. I was riding around. Okay, yes, and I was getting out there bright and early for the birds in the church. But then I noticed a 3-wheeler. We don't even have a sidewalk. So I got to ride in the street to the trail, and then I got to stop on the Chesapeake side because I don't have any money. I ain't gonna hold you up because I can be here all night. But I'm just telling you, these are the things that's happening in the city of Suffolk for the black community.
Thank you for sharing.
And we've had enough. I've talked to Quan. I tried to join one of their groups. I ain't heard nothing yet, but I sent in my application. That's my husband Wayne. I sent the application for him because he's my driver. And most of the times when we go, we've been to Richmond. We've been to Petersburg. I've said about Petersburg. Yeah, so we join every group we can join because we're trying to get the word out.
Yeah.
Because the money's just sitting there and they're waiting for the developers to come so they can pocket the money that they're getting from the government, and the developers come, and the developers are all amazed too. One man said, what about these ditches? I said, you out here working for the city, you won't tell them, pipe these ditches.
Well, but, mentioned trees, you also mentioned that 1/3 of our emissions been absorbed by forests and trees. Everyone loves trees, yet we keep chopping them down. Hopefully this plan will also look at options and make strategies for increasing our tree canopy statewide.
There are always federal land that, trees are not on, and that's why you keep cutting down the trees constantly. And to add on to what she's saying, Suffolk hasn't did anything that they say they have done or gonna do, and it's affecting the Chesapeake side where we are flooding. And there was one area where, in Keithville that was on the Chesapeake side, they said that they couldn't touch, that because of the environmental protection. We had to get the Corps of Engineers and all that to come out. And I told them, okay, what French come get? But then eventually they came and cut out a little section of it because per the master drainage plan that they had between two cities, they went on and opened it up on the Chesapeake side, but it's still backed up. The Suffolk didn't do their part, and so we flooded. But right now, Suffolk is doing work between big piping on 2 streets in Hughesville, not per the master drainage plan way that they should be following it. But again, it's still going to affect our homes, and it floods in our area and Chesapeake side is getting flooding from the interstate, from Petersville Road, from the Suffolk side and from Clifton. Okay? And we cannot continue to rebuild and rebuild. And we talk about cutting down, the ditches and the trenches and stuff, but all the culverts are clogged up. And when I asked them to let me walk to see these areas and stuff, there's a large beaver dam in Chesapeake is in the valley side of Petersville. The only way you're gonna get water up when the street is up here and the piping is down here, and you look at the map, all the piping is underground. You will have to get a pump, like you, to get the water out and do a miracle. But we're flooding.
I think that's a good point, the climate action plan. One of the things is greenhouse gas emission, reduction. But while all this is happening, we're already getting more and more rainfall. And our infrastructure, in most cases, was built 50 to 100 years ago.
Right.
It was not designed even for the rainfall we're getting, today, let alone increased rainfall. And so, that becomes, again, one of those costs of doing nothing. And, there's also another cost that's gonna impact it all.
And to piggyback off you just said, my video shows, I'm 70, and I've been at my home. And like she said, passed down from generation. I'm the last living one that is in their home. And somehow I have documents where when the flood happened, it cracked my concrete floor. I'm in a 2-story building. But that water's still coming in my home when you have it. So I can't live in my downstairs where the 4-bedroom, I gave everything away before the hurricane because I was renovating, right? And I'm glad I gave away all the furniture. And then after the renovation was done, I have pictures before and after what I have. In the process that I went through, what's going on is the people that's supposed to assist us when we have a disaster. I don't understand. They used the word when they wrote back to Congress about why they didn't help. They told me, oh, you can live upstairs, your kitchen and bathroom and everything, living room is upstairs. I said, what about these 4 bedrooms? My 1,400 square foot of water comes in my house. And I prayed and asked God to stop that water. And it did. I don't know why a lot of people still getting a lot of water, but it's around me. But that don't mean I don't need to be taken care of, because I can show pictures where water is up to your knees. This shouldn't be in the community like that. And people don't know that I'm looking at things totally different. You driving a vehicle up and down these highways, I don't care what city you in, you got all this water going under your car. You taking the expense. What is the city doing for not doing their job when they got the resources to stop the flooding? They go to Virginia Beach or anywhere.
Top of that,
Whole lot of expense.
our review, they, where old TCC used to be, used to be a port. They had a lot of weapons and all buried there. They digged up a lot of, the weapons and said that it had a lot of contaminants. And they built all these homes right there by the edge, okay? Where every time you dig and put a shovel in the ground and full of dirt, you altering the flow and the path of that water, that foundation. And you got all this water that's at different times hitting on that shore, and all those homes and stuff that has been built still have to sell. Eventually, it's gonna all cave in, and that's a lot of people's homes and lives.
We had a hand raised over here.
Yeah, I think, two points. I think one with the flooding and the adaptation measures, obviously, you even saw the images in the video. of the original plan. There are things that can be a response, an adaptation response to the floodwaters, but also create some mitigation opportunities like the tree wells, green streets, constructed wetlands, bioswales. So I think, to me, we're going to spend like all day meeting and talking about responses to adaptation measures that are going to have negative both from a mission standpoint and a habitat and water quality standpoint. So the response is putting up flood walls, which allow no wetland migration or hard subjects or hard structures, which would create more erosion for the adjacent land. So I think we need to have in this that as we're thinking about how to deal with the changing environment, more extreme and frequent storm events, even not near the shoreline, like stormwater, how to hold that stormwater, where that affects water quality, habitat, and also get some value, of course, from carbon reduction. But I think that's really important to our region. Also, too, I think with the trees, again, we all love trees. People can talk about planting trees all day long, but when it comes to the value that they we can't maintain them, don't plant another tree, or we have a spot where we don't plant another tree. Or like we were saying, if they're being taken down, what ordinances do those localities have that allow that to happen, even though I think many localities care about trees. So I think digging into the tree issue more so than just more trees, because more trees doesn't help. It's like saying, we need more money. So I think understanding what's going on, where we're losing tree canopies, because we are in many areas, and there's great data out there. What's the cause of that, and how do you actually change that? It's got to be a little bit deeper than just more trees. For it to be.
I'm gonna pause. Is there anything else? Sorry, I think you were sharing as well. Yeah, I just wanted to see if there's anything else online really quickly.
Yes,
Okay,
there are two.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, Juan, sent in a comment, and question saying there's a lot of conversation about transitioning to electric vehicles, but for low to moderate income households, this may not be as feasible. Could you see the state providing grants or incentives for the adoption of EVs or hybrids? Currently, there's a fee that is assessed by the DMV for all vehicles that are EVs/hybrids, which almost feels like a disincentive.
Thank you for asking that question. I think I'll do my best to give this a shot answering. But the VDOT has worked, expanded their electric vehicle infrastructure and building out electric vehicle infrastructure across the state. They're doing a lot of great work with those programs. Unfortunately, funding now and in the future is always a question and not for concern. So how that might look in the future for electric vehicle expansion is maybe not one that we can speculate on at this time, but that's something that electric vehicle infrastructure expansion in general is something that we've heard a lot from communities, and hopefully include at least as part of this roadmap in developing ways to reduce emissions within the transportation sector.
And I would add to that, that there is a EV rebate program on the books in Virginia. It's just not funded. So you take that point for it, you know, that our, sometimes, our legislature likes to put things out there that and look good, but don't necessarily follow all the way through, to make them be realistic. And it is what it is. But there are, and I'm not sure whether it's IRA or IIJA, there are federal incentives or rebates or tax credits for electric vehicles as well. Just trying to defray, but really all you're doing is defraying the cost of the increased delta of the cost from a regular car. So, I mean, it's out there, there are things out there that you can take advantage of. It's a matter of whether the economics work.
Okay. Sorry, just digging a little bit, also to about this electric vehicle, hybrid vehicles. Again, I went to register my hybrid vehicle, and then it increased tax, but the penalty in Virginia.
That's all because of the gas tax. So,
But if you want to incentivize it.
I understand.
I mean, I think
Understand.
including it in recommendations is something.
yeah, but you always get it. You have to be careful with the sense because sometimes it can be tricky because a lot of the debate for that particular issue is just because the vehicles are becoming more energy efficient in any case, is to move the road maintenance tax to some other basis. And then you get into things like road usage or DMT types based programs, and that has its own problem. So, that has also been a big topic of discussion with VDOT and transportation, as to how to best, maintain that funding source. I will add, and this is just Tom Baloo's talking, so it's not big. Anybody else? I think a lot of people, I think the federal government, state governments, lots of governments have missed the boat on hybrid vehicles. And that's why they do not promote them more as a bridge to get to what they want to get to. I do not understand. But and sometimes, especially it becomes, in the environmentalist groups, it becomes an all or nothing thing. Electrify everything. Well, that's good, but that's a big change that you're trying to affect. Why don't you do something that can bridge you, that can get you further on down the road and not be such a upfront cost thing?
I'm not gonna be an optimist, on one thing at least, and that is electric vehicles. I'm actually not at all worried about us transitioning to electric vehicles because within, I figure, less than 5 years, the electric vehicle will actually be cheaper than the gas vehicle.
And that could be,
And, the folks who want to hang on to the gas vehicle can be doing it because they don't like change, not because they're saving any money by doing it. And so the transition to electric vehicles, transition to electric charging is gonna happen no matter how much people, stomp their feet against it, because it's a better technology.
but that's the other side of it as well. You've got to have the charging infrastructure to be able to support mass, migration to electric vehicles.
In the early 1900s, in 1900, we were probably zero gas stations. And by 1930, they were on every street corner. And there probably was no government mandate saying you need to put a gas station on every street corner. It just happened because of the demand. And I think the same, again, I'm gonna be the optimist, and the EV thing is gonna happen, no matter how much you don't want it to.
Okay, well, I have, because I don't want to make it from here. One, electrical stuff eventually crashes. Then I do understand you can have a crashing, gas vehicle as well, and that's common. But again, how long does it take to charge it up when you go to a station?
It's gonna get faster.
How long does it take?
Right now, it's go to a DC fast charging station, it's about 15, 20 minutes.
Okay, look here, in 15, 20 minutes, you know how far I can be down the road, okay? I'm trying to get to a destination because of the fact that I am on a time limit, okay? All right, and I only like to travel during the daytime, I don't like driving at night. So I don't want to stop at nighttime, waiting on somewhere in the dark, trying to get this stuff, get my car to go where it needs to go. And then, again, all vehicles, everything is man-made, and it's gonna end up not working at some time. But I sure hope it be working during the daytime and getting me where I'm going. But again, everybody has a choice. Why do? Because you all like this technology and this vehicle and everything, and you, because I don't want what you want.
But you also have the choice of getting a horse and carriage.
Okay, but I have a car that I'm already paying for the property tax on, or the vehicle that I'm already paying.
I'm saying, you'll get a choice to have your gas car too and keep it for a long time.
I want to keep my,
You might have a problem finding a gas station in 20 years.
okay, so, y'all gonna take away all the gas altogether, and we're not gonna have no gas nowhere.
You have.
Yeah.
You raised a very good point, and I agree with you in the sense that, one, you have to have the infrastructure to do the charging first, to account for all electric cars. But two, you have to have the convenience of being able to go to a charging station and do the same thing you do at a gas station now. Get it, fill it up, charge it up in a couple minutes. That's when you're gonna see a real change in technology.
And then again, with all the technologies, the car, they didn't be a computer.
Lots of advances. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I understand that, like, how much of reporting for you, like, and like the financial risk, like, interaction?
Yeah.
Or like.
Okay. Yeah, so the question is asking how much of the plan will look at financial risks of inaction across the various sectors. With that, I think we'll ultimately, like I mentioned, sort of like a cost benefits analysis that we're hoping to include. I think we'll look at both the environmental and economic impacts of those inactions across sectors in some way, shape, or form. I think it's a little unclear what that might look like for each specific sector at this time. I don't know if you have anything else to contribute to the economic impacts or of inactions.
Well, I mean, again, we will try to address that situation as best we can. We are somewhat challenged, just given the amount of time we have to put this plan together and analysis and limitations of the tools we have, but we do plan on addressing that, where you have both upfront costs, but then you have back-end benefits in a number of different ways. And how they play against each other, and so it gives you a better full picture of what to expect.
And I will say, I guess, at least the good news is that, well, there's a lot of good news, but in your case in particular, because we haven't officially drafted the plan yet, that type of feedback of maybe emphasizing economic inaction or benefits of inaction is something that, we're noting, and we can definitely, brainstorm how to prioritize or include, implement, things like that, yeah.
One way of doing that is where one thing of do that already is the social cost of carbon. And we've really not discussed how that will be factored into the plan yet, but we're gonna have to do something along those lines to do a credible cost benefit analysis.
And I know we've had a question online. I know that you've been waiting, so we'll get that answered.
Yes, there's one more question. Amanda's asking, are there plans to expand other types of renewable energy, like wind or hydro? Or if there are not, could there be plans to expand that?
Well, wind is already, you all know, should know, about being down this area, wind is already, being expanded. Dominion already has one of the first project, in process. They have a lease for a second one. I forget now what the total megawatt is, but it's significant. Now, change is always inevitable, and the current administration is now saying they don't want to lease any more offshore wind land, leases to do offshore wind. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But the tricky part for us in Virginia has been onshore wind. Nobody likes it for some reason.
I do also want to briefly note for Amanda that on our DEQ webpage, we do have renewable energy pages. We have one under our programs as well as permits. Permits gets into the little bit more technical considerations for developers that might be looking at various types of renewable energy projects. But if you go to our programs and renewable energy, and I'll just drop a link in the chat for you, we do have a brief explanation of all the various renewable energy types within the state and how they are permitted, if they are permitted in Virginia, how many projects are there, where are they located, as well as how much megawattage capacity that they do have. There's also a renewable energy development atlas that was created by one of our GIS specialists recently that displays all utility scale renewable energy projects across the state.
And the other thing that is now looming yet again in the debate of the carbon-free or renewable energy is nuclear power. And that's now being actively discussed for various reasons. Be it a fusion reactor, which there's been news about that in Richmond recently. They are going plans to develop their first fusion reactor in Chesterfield County in 2031. But there's also been a great deal of discussion of possible small modular reactors to at least somewhat meet, the large demand again we're seeing today. So that's being discussed and may or may not play a part in, at least carbon-free, generation.
Got a question over here really quick, sorry.
Yeah, just to kind of go off that, I mean, I'm also concerned about the AI data center and electrification of cars in Virginia and specifically like the impact of the grid. And I know that natural gas is mainly what fills in the gaps for these big spikes. I've been nuclear could be an option for like another base load, but I don't know with it, like, is it like the state that would build something like the nuclear, or is this more like, is there a way of pushing these big, I don't know, energy users to build their own sorts of energy?
There's a lot of that going on. In fact, the General Assembly, there's been a number of bills this session to address ratepayer impacts not being affected by building the additional capacity needed to feed this increased demand. I don't know where they stand, but there is a lot of talk about making these large users of electricity pay more of their share to get that generation thing in. Most of the development that I've heard speculated about would be private companies, not government, either federal or state government.
I do want to be mindful, we do have about 15 minutes left. We'll get to your question in 1 second. I just wanted to point to a few resources really quick while we're wrapping up, just to be mindful of time, and we'll stick around and continue to have these discussions. But even if you don't mind going to the next slide. So we've already covered a lot of this question that we were going to ask you tonight. So thank you all for your input. We're going to continue to receive feedback and input on specific emission reduction measures that matter most to you, that you want to see in plans. A lot of these topics were already discussed, but there's many more that we might not have touched on that you want to touch on. So as we continue to filter out these final discussions, I just wanted to point and flag this out, that if you want to continue adding that input on pieces of paper that you want us to collect or share that input at a later time for us, we can do so. And then Ava, if you don't mind going to the next slide. I'll just go through these slides really quickly and I'll be sure to get back with you guys. And then we also want to know sort of what is missing. I think we've also covered a lot of these things. What is not really being talked about right now that you want to talk about? What else you want us to know? If there's more of that feedback as well, we're passing out those notes and we'll be able to collect those at the end. The next slide. And we talk a lot about action, you know, at very different levels, personal level, the local level, cities, regions, and then the state. If you're feeling like you want to do something after this and engage in more efforts to personally act to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, these are some notes and instances of where you might be able to engage in those efforts. So if you're a homeowner, you might be able to, we talk a lot about these home energy audits, and that was a big concern that we talked about earlier, but also things like Energy Star efficient appliances to reduce costs there at your bill. And then for renters as well as homeowners, we have the basic things that you've probably heard about for a very long time now, but still apply, such as energy efficient light bulbs. Those might save pennies or at the short term, you know, but those are immediate sort of actionable steps that you might be able to take. Same thing with, you know, looking at reducing energy use from hot water, so looking at cold or warm water for clothes, things like that. And then for transportation, these, as you're able, of course, communities face different challenges and structures in terms of public transportation, walkability. If you have those resources available to you and you're able to use them, that's definitely an advantage. If not, that's something that we, you know, hear from you as well, and something that we are continuing to include as part of that feedback process. And always more ways for you to provide input. So it doesn't end here tonight. For everybody online and for all of us in the room here tonight, we're collecting feedback through our community survey. So you might have taken this already, but if not, this is going to be open until April 18th. You have a QR code in your packet somewhere, but it's also here. There's also a link if you don't want to use the QR code. We'll drop that in the chat. This is going to be capturing all of the feedback sort of that we've heard from tonight, but it'll allow you to maybe sit with that and type things out in a long form response. If you want to go back and maybe touch on things that we didn't really touch on tonight or expand on things, we can certainly do that as well. You know, the next slide. And we also, I think we mentioned a lot of these things already. We have a bulletin, so we release something hopefully monthly-ish around that time frame. We try not to, storm your inbox with everything. But if you want to know about continued engagements, ways to stay involved, updates on this plan as it gets into this draft form, we're going to go back hopefully out in some way, shape, or form in the fall after we've released this draft plan to get your feedback. We talked about that a little bit, what we did, what we forgot, if we captured things correctly from you all. So all of those updates will come through that bulletin. We have our webpage, which we mentioned a lot, lots of resources on there. We have our email. We're always open to receiving additional feedback and input. I also have my personal email business cards if you want to collect those. They're right there, but I can pass them out to anybody that's interested. And then we have another form for you. This is our last one. We have a post-meeting feedback form. So this is specifically for tonight. We covered a lot. We probably didn't cover as much as you wanted to. Maybe there's something that we missed. Any of that information that you have, good, bad, we'll take it. We want to hear what we did well and what we did not do well, what we can improve throughout this engagement process. We're always looking to continue engaging and improving our engagement. So if you have specific feedback on what you heard tonight, anything like that, please feel free to share that in the post-meeting feedback form. This is also for all of our online attendees. If you want to continue expanding on our engagement online, you feel like you maybe have more to contribute that you weren't able to put in the chat, this is the place to do that as well. With that being said, we do have a few more minutes left, so I just want to share those in case people need to get out of here. Other than that, if you guys have any more questions, please let us know. We can continue to have some concluding discussions on what we talked about tonight. But otherwise, thank you so much for being here and for taking the time out of your day and your evening to spend time with us at YouTube. Thank you.
You guys think about one thing? The electrical cost, how much does it cost to charge them up here?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. You might be able to look that up pretty quickly.
They have standard rates.
What I'm saying is, you think gas costs a lot there. You wait for somebody to get a ATM machine and put it on one of these electrical cars. And you go somewhere to charge your car, it's gonna cost you just as much to put gas in it as it is to cost you, put electric on your car.
Right.
So that's one of the things. I know it's cheap now.
Right now, it's cheaper than gas, but
But you wait for somebody to get an ATM machine hooked up to that gas charge.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah.
It's just something to think about.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's what we're doing. Anything else, Sam? Anything? If not, that's okay. We can collect anything that you want us to. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, we're gonna.
When you get a matter, like, I'm a kid, for example, I do one day.
I think people are mostly just writing down there.
I told him, I said, when you start this when everything shut down. They didn't think of mine.
Yeah.
It shut it down like I. And the whole city hall, rain shut down. Yeah. And other things. I'm serious. We only have to sit around for one hour.
I'll have you ready to get out. Thank you all again.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? It's a card, there you go. The security one, so either way, that's a great one. Thanks.
For all of the online attendees who are still online, I am going to close out the webinar now. But thank you so much for attending, and please feel free to contact us through any of these means on the on the screen right now. Thank you again so much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.